Welcome people around the world tuning in. If this is your first time, welcome to the Recipe to Success podcast. And for the regular listeners of the show, welcome back. This week's episode is powered by our super connectors, Wasta.ai, helping you expand your network across the GCC. For today's episode, it's hard to know really where to start. Dean Munro, an entrepreneur, a husband, a father. Rewind to beginning of 2021, his family were excited to welcome into the world their son Monte, but unfortunately Monte was born with a fatal muscular disease and within 10 weeks passed away. As heartbreaking as this story is, there is a bittersweet ending, and today we get to share that with you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Recipe to Success podcast with Dean Munro. Dean, good morning.
Good morning.
How are we doing?
I'm good. Bit nervous, but excited to tell my story.
Yeah, I mean, don't be nervous. Obviously, everyone's just kind of listening in and wanting to hear a bit of inspiration. And, you know, this story for me has to be up there with kind of the epitome of what we're trying to do. Mm-hmm. So kind of without a bit going into too much detail, I'll let you tell the story from your side, and just give us a brief bit of an introduction to the story behind Monte and what happened with your family.
Okay, yes. So Monte, he was born on the 5th of April this year, 2021. The pregnancy with my wife was pretty normal. Towards the end, she got quite big. I mean, if you see photos of her, there's 4 kids in there. We kept going to the doctors, everything was fine. And then it got to a point where it was too much for her. She was getting too big, it was too painful. So we went and saw our doctor out here. I said, look, we're going to bring the C-section forward. We're going to book her in for tomorrow. That evening, on the 4th, on the 5th, we went into the hospital just to do the checks. So she was there the night before, ready to go down in the morning. Yeah. And they couldn't find the heartbeat. They were saying, look, we need to get the baby out now. That will play a key role, in my opinion, for later on in the story, because we rushed in. They took my wife in to obviously have everything ready. I went down into a room, and it was like an emergency room. It was like where the doctors were. There was blood on the floor, and I had to put on scrubs, clothing, and I was panicking. I couldn't imagine what my wife was feeling. So
this was actually blood from your wife?
No, this was blood from the hospital, because I went into the doctor's entry, and I was just like, there's bandages here, and I'm like, what am I doing? This wasn't like I'd planned it. This wasn't having my daughter. Yeah. It was calm. I went into a changing room. I got dressed. It was cool. I was calm, and then we went and had a baby.
So it was chaos.
It was chaos
from the word go.
And I knew something was wrong. I kept it cool. I kept to my wife, everything's going to be okay. Yeah. And then obviously we called in and the surgery started. They pulled Monte out, and it was a sight that I'll never forget. He was lifeless. He didn't scream, he didn't cry, he didn't make any noise. And I've still got that image in my head of they've just taken him and they've just put him on the table and they've started doing work, obviously, to get him breathing. He wasn't breathing, he was as blue as the cable. From there, they were obviously, that's how we kept saying, is he okay? They're like, okay, he's okay, he's calm, we're sorting him. They're putting him on a breathing machine. My wife's lying there. She's like, what's going on? She's not with it. I'm trying to.
I was going to say, because before we kind of got to that stage, obviously your wife, she had C-section. Was she kind of because usually on C-section, what they'll do is they'll obviously give you loads of meds, mm-hmm. and painkillers and stuff. Yeah. Was she kind of high as a kite and a bit of
She was with it. We had Rod Stewart playing in the background. We were listening to Rod Stewart. She was calm as anything. She just kept asking, where's my baby? What's happening? Because you imagine he was over in this corner behind her, so I could see both, and I could see what they're doing. And it wasn't, the environment was bad. It was worrying.
Yeah.
It was the only word I could use, really. So from there, they took Monte out of the room. Now I'm torn. I've got my wife here, who's just gone through surgery. I've got my son who's going to be taken somewhere. So I've had to say, look, I love you, but I'm going to go with it. So we went up to the NICU, and the doctor kept saying to me, "Look, was there anything during pregnancy? Was he sick?" I said, "There was nothing wrong." I said, "We weren't aware of anything. Like it was, my wife was big, but we were not aware of anything. All the tests that were done come back normal." And that was it. He was in an ICU, put on the life support machine, and he was never, going to leave that ward. Obviously, I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
It was. I was ringing my mum. I was ringing my friends. I was like, "Look, what do I do? This isn't in the manual.
Yeah.
This isn't what's meant to happen."
Yeah, I mean, life throws some serious curveballs at you, but like dealing with that is just. I mean, when we first spoke about the story, honestly, like I just sat there and was it sent chills down my spine because, I don't have children, but I have things in my life which I love, and to go through that situation would be just. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's quite hard to kind of express the words, but
it is. I mean, it's not taught to us in life.
Yeah.
In life, and I've said it now, we learn in life that people die when you get older. Your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your mum's auntie, your aunt. That's life. We know that we're expecting that in life. That's always going to happen. But when you lose a child, that's not written anywhere.
Yeah.
No one's prepared for that.
Yeah. So, obviously at this time you kind of didn't know the seriousness of what was going on.
Not at all.
So, like, what was going through your mind at this point?
My mind was, he's premature. I said, that's all I kept saying to the doctors. And so we went in the next day, and we saw him. He was obviously in an incubator. He had the machine on his face. But all I was saying is he's premature. And they were like, well, he's not massively premature. I think he was 36 weeks. And I said, he just needs feeding. I said, just keep feeding him. He's going to be big and strong.
Yeah.
I said, look at me. I said, I'm 6'3". I said, my son is going to be huge. I said, just keep feeding him. I said, there's nothing wrong with my son. 3 days later, a specialist come in, and I wasn't there. I'd come home to see my daughter. And he said to my wife, he said, there's something, your child is sick. And I when my wife told me that, I went crazy. I said, how's someone telling me that? I said, they know nothing about... I was in denial. It was denial, okay? I was blinded by love.
Yeah.
That's all I saw. All I saw was the most beautiful little boy who was weak. And that's all I kept saying, he's weak. I said, as soon as he gets stronger, as soon as you feed him up, as soon as he's drinking that milk, I said, he's going to walk out of here. I said, it's fine. There was not one part of me that ever thought he wasn't not going to leave that ward. I knew, I was adamant that he was coming home.
Yeah.
I said, 2 weeks he'll be in here.
Well, do you know what I mean? Just touching on that point right there, there's lots of situations in life where you've got choices to be a certain way. And, your choice right then was to be positive. You could have beat yourself up and come home and been like, like, this is bad, this is this, but like just, and obviously you being, obviously you're dealing with that. It's your first son, but then you're also your wife, your children, your family, like you're kind of like the vocal point between all those parties. So you're trying to remain strong. So
I was, and that's what, my wife is remarkably strong as well. Do you know what I mean? And people say they're strong people. I can guarantee you now I've never met anybody who's as strong as me and my wife.
yeah,
People physically strong, mentally, no one will ever get through what we've been through. And to come out stronger, the other side, is insane. But I couldn't go negative. I'm not a negative person, full stop. Anybody that knows me, anybody that's grown up with me knows I'm not a negative person. I've always got a positive outlook on life. I thought if I go into this sort of depression mode, I said, I've read the stories, I've seen the things, I said, this can't happen to me. I said, I won't let this happen to me.
yeah,
And I didn't, and I just had to be strong for my wife, I had to be strong for Tallulah, and I had to be strong to my, the family. My family weren't out here to support us. We didn't have my mum to, come around the corner and give us a cuddle and say, look, it's going to be all right. We didn't have any of that. It was just us two.
yeah. So, kind of like after the first few days, how long did you stay in hospital with Monty?
So my wife was in there for 3 days, but we was only allowed to see him for 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening because of corona.
Even that is like pain. You just want to be there. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know, in a way, if those restrictions weren't in, we probably would have slept up there all day and all night between us. We would have laid by his bed, and the slightest thing, would have just given us a buzz. But we was there so we had 3 days in the hospital. Then my wife was, the day after the surgery, she's at the same mentality where you don't want to be a patient, so you put your pajamas back on, you don't lay in your gown, like you get your hair done, you try and feel normal. If you dress like a patient, you're going to feel like a patient.
Yeah.
So for her, it was key that she, got changed. It was the same with our daughter. I mean, if you saw pictures of her after she'd had our daughter Tallulah, she looked like she'd just come out the salon.
Yeah.
Hair done, makeup, and I think it's just a sign of
how strong she is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when obviously this was going on, so how long did it take to actually get the diagnosis?
So we had all the tests that were coming back. They were thought it could be this, it could be that, and everything was coming back negative. And I'm sitting there going, guys, why are you worrying? I said, he's fine. He's weak. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
They said, right, this is a bit more serious. So after about 5 days, they had to take a sample, which they had to send off to Germany. It was for gene testing. This has only been around for about 5 years. So they had to take a sample of his blood and obviously send it over to Germany, where we had to sit there and wait for 6 weeks, literally with our thumbs. During this time, my wife would go home and she would look on the internet and she would say, look, he's got this, he's got that, this is what he's got. I said, don't tell me that. I said, until I've got something in front of me in black and white that's come from a professional, I said, there's nothing wrong with my son. I said, there is nothing wrong with our boy, Kirst. I said, you're saying he's got this, he's got that. And she would drive herself mad. And I can understand why.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to go down that route because I was in denial. I was blinded by love. Absolutely denial. My goal was him going forward. There was...
Yeah, I can imagine. Because at the end of the day, it's like, we'll get onto the kind of spiritual side of things afterwards, but, it's almost like your spirit will go to Monte just by having that motivation and positivity and inspiration to think everything's fine. But so loads of tests came back. You sent some samples to Germany. How long was that process?
So it took 6 weeks for that to come back. Now the worst thing about that, this was the worst. Obviously the day he died was awful, but this was a bad day because that day they'd said we got about 3 days before, they said he's going to have a tracheostomy fitted, which is a constant pipe fitted in his throat, which basically breathes for him. That hurt me when I heard that, and that's when I knew, okay, this isn't going well. They said there's one more option. We can get him a mask, a custom-built mask, which we put on his nose, and it will breathe for him, so we don't have to do a surgery, he doesn't need this, and hopefully over time he'll get better. And I said, do it. I said, whatever it takes, do it. 3 days later, they got the machine in. It was really cute. It was like a giraffe, like a zoo animal, around him, that went over his face. And it was the first time we saw his lips as well. It was the first time we saw his lips after 6 weeks. Beautiful. And they got the machine on, and he took to it. And we was in there with him at the time. We'd stayed past visiting hours. It was about 1 PM. We had to leave our hotel, and we were sitting there, me and Kirst were like, the alarms were going off, like he was adapting, but then he started steadying out. We were like, this is amazing. I said to the guys, I said, how much is this machine? I said, whatever it costs, get one ready. Because I said, we're taking this and we're getting out of it. I said, he's coming home with us with this machine. That same day, 1 hour later, we got in the car park of the hospital. It was the NICU, and my heart sank. And they said, can you come up and see us? I said, what's happened? I said, just tell me. They said, the results are back. And I've looked at Kirst and I just said, shit. I said, I don't know where we're going to go here. We walked up and we went into this room. There was a table like this with about 8 chairs. And there was everyone was sat in there. The doctors, the nurses, the specialists.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and I was just like, I just grabbed her hand.
What were you feeling at that moment?
Is it chokes me up now. Like the feeling.
Is it a feeling that you've ever felt before, or is it something that was completely?
I don't think I'll ever feel anything. That the fear in my body, scared, worried, like the feelings. I can't describe it. Just looking in that room, knowing that I was going to be told something, which wasn't good.
Yeah, your fate's like in someone's hands.
It was. It was. And he sat us down, this specialist British guy, and he explained to us the situation. It was all doctor spiel, so it was very difficult. But he said, "Here it is." And while he's talking to me, I've got my phone and I'm Googling it, and my heart sank. That was the point.
So he told you what it was?
He told me what it was. Sat here. I'm Googling it. He's talking to Kirsty. Kirsty's saying, "Is he brain damaged?"
Yeah.
And the doctor said, "No, he's not brain damaged." And Kirsty was then excited by that because she said, "He's not brain damaged, it's fine." And I'm sitting there going, "But you don't understand. Like, I'm seeing what's happened."
So just so everyone knows, the disease, I'll try and pronounce this correctly. Maybe you can pronounce it better than I can, but myotubular myopathy.
Yeah, so it's X-linked myotubular myopathy.
And when you Google that, for the audience that are listening in, the first thing that comes up is the fact that it's fatal and there's a maximum lifeline of 2 years. That's the first thing that came up when and is that the first thing you read when you Googled?
I read that and we said, what is his life expectancy? And they said it's not, I think it said 16 months when we was talking to him, but I Googled it and I knew at that point that, okay, my worst fear has now come to life.
Yeah.
I couldn't deny it anymore. I couldn't hide from the fact that something was wrong with my boy.
Yeah.
I had to deal with it there and then, and that was bar the 14th of June. Apart from that date, that was the worst date for me during the whole finding out. It was like somebody just stuck a knife in and twisted it.
Wow. And from that moment onwards, like, what was the, like, Monte
deteriorated after that heavily.
Do you think that also is a part of, because obviously they said 16 months, right? But do you also think that's because also your kind of belief and your wife's belief was just shattered in pieces, and he was almost, like you say, spiritually kind of feeding off your energy?
I think, yeah, there was a lot of things to take in, but definitely a week after, I'd never cried in front of him. I used to just read him books every night. I sit there reading him stories. It was my way of communicating with him. I never got upset in front of him. So I thought, if I get him upset in front of him, he's going to know that I'm upset. So I was always strong. But then one day, the day after, we left that, as we were walking through the NICU, all the other parents were there. We met some amazing people in there. And we just broke. One of the nurses came up to us and just gave us a cuddle because she knew the word had got round to the other nurses of the severity. And we just broke in that ward. Like, we just bawled our eyes out. The other lad that I met there, Josh, his little boy, he's out of NICU now. Lovely couple, and he just came running. Like, we got to the car, but he's like, "I can't let them drive home." I said, "I've got to find them. I've got to drive them home." I met some amazing people in that place.
Yeah.
Like some parents, the respect I have for nurses and doctors, and it's another level of feelings that I've never experienced these feelings in my body. Yeah. I've never met people this special.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, some people will be listening to this and going, when I go to work, the hardest thing that will happen to me is, I'll have a shit boss or something like that. But, also for them as well, psychologically, it must be really difficult as well to just, any human that is a human and has a heart would see this story and just feel broken by the fact that someone else has to go through that situation. I mean, how, like, so from the diagnosis until the day Monty died, like, how long was that then?
That was 4 weeks.
Okay.
So it was almost 4 weeks to the day, 14th of June, about 6 minutes past 10, we got the phone call here saying, I think our phone went off at 9:52. From here to City Hospital, it's a good 25 minute drive. I think we'd done it in about 11 minutes. And we got there and he was still with us. He waited. And then the machines just... The machines went, and it was at that point we knew he'd gone. But he waited for us to come and to see him and sort of give him a final kiss and just tell him we loved him.
Oh, mate, you got me going now.
I always said I go back to that point about him the day he was born.
Yeah.
If we'd waited another day, the likelihood that he could have come out stillborn.
Yeah.
Now, if that had happened, I would never have got those 10 weeks with him. I'd have never got that time with him. And there would have been so many unanswered questions in my head and in my wife's head.
Yeah.
Why did my son not come out alive? And we would never known the answer. We'd never known. They would have done a couple of tests. They wouldn't have done the tests that we'd done. They wouldn't have done the investigating. They wouldn't have sent those things off to Germany. And that's something that helps me, that I did meet him. I did see him. There's parents who, to have a stillborn child, I couldn't even imagine to go through that as well. You know, you never got to meet him. With Monte, we never got to hear him cry. We never got to hear his voice. We never got to see tears run down his face. We never saw his face until the day he died.
Yeah.
The day after, the day he died was the first time we saw his face when they took him into the room. But yeah, I was just lucky that I had that 10 weeks. And the day after, it's a strange saying, I've said this to people before, I knew he was in pain, because after we found out the diagnosis and actually how it affects the muscles, it's really quite a horrible thing. And it can be painful for certain children. We used to get excited about him lifting his arm, you know, little movements like this. I would be buzzing. But he was in pain, like you could see him, and his heart rate would shoot through. His heart rate was going up to 220 sometimes, and I was panicking.
220?
Yeah, and even at his resting, he was about 180, 190. It was strange to see, but I had great relief in knowing that he wasn't in pain.
Yeah.
The day he looked so peaceful when he came to us after he passed away. We had this nice outfit for him. We said we want him to wear his outfit. Tallulah, my daughter, had given him a toy, a bunny, which you'll see in the books. And that was his toy, because Tallulah met him once. She wasn't allowed to see him because people weren't allowed into the ward. She met him for about 30 seconds. And it was just the way she was with him just melted my heart. Like, she still talks about him now, but he was dressed beautifully. And he just come in and he looked so peaceful in his face. I knew he's better. I knew he's in a better place. For him to be wired up to that machine every day, injections going into him, being pricked and prodded, it was no life for anyone. And I felt guilty that I'm stood above him, that I can't do anything. I can't take away that pain.
Yeah.
It was a peace. The morning after, I woke up, and as funny as it may sound, I woke up, and it was like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. That weight was knowing he was free. He wasn't wired up to the machine.
Yeah.
He wasn't, and that was a huge, huge, huge thing for me. And I'll never forget that. I said to my wife, I said to Kirst, I said, I feel he's been released. I feel like part of me's been released as well.
Yeah.
That was a big, big thing for me, that was.
Yeah, I mean, wow. Just some story, and obviously Monte's such a strong boy, but obviously, I mean, in terms of the relationship, so we'll touch base on that slightly, but you mentioned obviously about feeling free the next day. Obviously, you guys were still facing a lot of pain.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, probably your daughter didn't understand it so much, so she was asking lots of questions. How did you guys what sort of things did you do to kind of get over such horrific circumstances and so much pain?
For me, it was, I left school with basically no GCSEs. Like, me reading, writing, being in the classroom, it doesn't work. I was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 27. And then the day after, I was sat in my office, 3 days after, and I just picked up a pen and I started writing. And I started writing these books about Monte, about adventures he would have, events of his life. And he just came to me, and these words were just flowing, like words which I didn't even realise were in me. Do you know what I mean? This was something you couldn't be taught. I firmly believe that this come from my heart. This come from experience. And these books that I've written, I think they're going to put a lot of smiles on a lot of people's faces, and
Yeah.
they've helped me beyond belief. They really have helped me so much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I'll do is I've actually got one of your poems that you wrote just for everyone to listen to.
It's best that you read that.
Yeah?
Well,
Okay.
I'll probably just ball.
Okay. Monty Gray, our little star, you fought so hard, you've come so far. We wish this was all a terrible dream. The days get no easier, not how they should be. Only seeing you twice a day is the hardest thing. We want you at home, not wired up to that horrible thing. The pipes in your mouth, they hide the smile that would melt the hearts of girls from miles. It'll take some time for you to become strong, but we continue to build a truly special bond. You're ready to take your very first breath. Mummy and Daddy will be there with an ear on your chest. Tallulah has already started calling you Mon. She knows who you are and wants to get strong. She's made you a spot in your new playroom to catch up on lost time that you've passed too soon. We're being so strong, but it hurts us inside when all we want is for you to lay by our side. You're so innocent, you've done nothing wrong. The way the world works sometimes is so wrong. We'll look back on this when you're a little bit older and see how far you've come and gotten so much taller. Saying a small prayer is all we ask to bring you home with us in peace at last. So that you're reading that, obviously very emotional.
That one I wrote that, as I say, when I just done that poem while I was visiting him every day, and we stuck it onto his bed. I stuck a matchbox toy car there as well. He had a really cool incubator, and all the nurses would come around and they kept reading. They said, "Who wrote this? This is amazing." And honestly, if you went through my history of schooling, there's no way on this planet that I would be able to create something like that. That's something that's happened to me.
Yeah. It's, I mean, it truly is. I mean, I can really, I think from our backgrounds, we're quite similar people. I never kind of got diagnosed, but, sit me in a classroom, I could not concentrate.
Yeah, that was terrible.
You stick me in like a live environment, I'm quite good at that sort of situation, but learning was not my strongest point, and I got 1 GCSE when I left school. But reading that poem, I mean, my mum writes poems, and I've tried to like write poems for birthdays and birthday cards and stuff, and it's almost impossible. So like to read that, you read it and you think, wow, that's been written by someone that's been doing it for years, and obviously you'd literally just, these words had just come out of your mind. How long did it take you to write like this book?
I promise you, that took me about 10 minutes. I've written the book that's coming out now, this book that's just been published. I wrote that in a time, I was in my mum's bedroom at home when we went back for the summer.
Yeah.
Kirsty was putting Tallulah to bed. It must have been 25 minutes.
Yeah.
I wrote this whole story, which has just come out now, about Monte's first Christmas. And that came to me like that. And the other books have as well. Since I've been back, I've had a bit of a block with the words, but that's just because we're getting back into routine now. Our lives are working, but that's not to say that there's 5 books that I've already written, and there's going to be another.
Yeah. And you've just, correct me if I'm wrong, you've just released the first book, Montes.
First book's just come out now. That's gone, well, that was on Amazon. It's, direct to buy here, the UK, all over.
Yeah.
And it's had an amazing response because this isn't about me wanting to necessarily be the best author in the world. This is me dealing with this the way I want to deal with it, the way that it's helped me.
Yeah.
If this book sold 10 copies, I wouldn't care because it's helped me deal with this trauma, and it's providing me with an escape to write about him and write stuff he would have done in his life.
Yeah.
Christmas, birthdays, first day of school is the next one. And it's the way they're written. I'm speechless.
Yeah.
As to even describe how I've done it.
Yeah, I mean, what we'll do on the bio in the podcast is we'll actually send some links. They're definitely stories that I'm going to be buying and catching up with my niece. She's 3 years old now, so she loves a book. So I'm going to be reading them to her for sure, and we'll obviously make that available for everyone. But in terms of, so you've written 5 books already.
There's 5 that I've now written, 1 published.
And how are you going to release them?
So this one, I'll be honest, this was a little bit rushed because I had to get it ready for Christmas. So the plan was to have like a big launch party, have like 500 books here with me. We'll do some things around Dubai to launch it that way. But that's going to be the plan now for the next one. This first one was just to get it out. It's more of an online book.
Yeah.
But the next one is going to be retailers. I'm speaking to a few companies here in Dubai at the moment.
Yeah.
About a couple of things. So that the next one, I'll be more. I know the logistics to it now. Yeah. It was rushed, but I got my point across. I got the book across. I got it the way I wanted it. The imagery, everything.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
Yeah, and also as well, in terms of the books, you've got a couple of styles of books, right? So you've got the book to read, but it's also quite animated.
Yeah.
So how did that process come in? Because obviously, you know, visualization is a part of a lot of people's kind of like way of life, and I think a lot of people listening in, they think of visualization as in kind of like what they want from life. Mm-hmm. But obviously visualization from a child's perspective, and imagine it like a child, like how did that all come around as well? Were you just getting like...
I was getting images of him sat in front of a Christmas tree.
Yeah. Of
me when I was a kid, the feeling I had. So when you look at these books, so people don't get confused, they're not written as Monty as a 10-week-old baby. They're written as Monty as a 4-year-old child. Yeah. Because the adventures that he's going on. You know, if I had him as a baby, like that he's writing a Christmas list and things like this, it wouldn't make sense. So when I say it's Monty's first Christmas, it's Monty's first Christmas that it would have been. You know, even in 5 years' time, this would have been his first Christmas. But the animations, again, that side of my head, recently, and that's something, I've just built a website for my wife's salon. We designed an app, and all this stuff that was never with me before. All this stuff's happened, like it's kick-started another part of my brain with illustrations and like draw it. Like I can't draw, don't get me wrong, I can't draw, but I'll give you the image that I want you to draw if you're an artist, and you can put it onto paper and it will be exactly as I want. But I just pictured him. I pictured him jumping up in the morning, that feeling that I had, running downstairs for Christmas, posting your letter to Santa. All that stuff was up here, and it was images of him being me, or me seeing him as that child.
There's obviously one thing with obviously writing the books, but the imagery as well. So did you, I mean, you've obviously visualized certain aspects of like his life, but who did you get to actually, like, did you work with like an artist as well to do that?
There was within the company that we went with, but everything was written. So I said, I want Monty sat in front of a tree. I want the snow in the background coming across the window with Santa flying through the sky, and every last detail. Like I needed him to have his teddy, the bunny that Tallulah got him, that she gave to him the day she met him. That's in the book. Like that's by his side, and that'll be in every book. Yeah, because that was with him. That was with him till the very end, and that was a present which she gave him. But everything, like it opened up another part of my brain, which I didn't create. It really did, and a lot's happened since then. Not just with the books, but I've been able to help my wife. We designed a new website, an app as well. Yeah. For the company, marketing, like the amount of producing now of flyers and things we can do.
You've just become so creative. Just become
from this, and I can tell you now that was never there before. Yeah. I never had that part of me. I could talk to people. I could talk the hind legs of a donkey, but I couldn't do anything like this.
Yeah. And tell us about the other 4 books then. So what are the other 4 books coming
So the next one is Monty's first day at school. That one's really special because that includes his friend who he was in NICU with, about them going to school together, how they become friends, and basically their friendship will grow. Got Monty's adventure to the zoo. Yeah. Which I really like. Monte's first football match, which is him playing football, scoring a goal, like the crowd, his football kit.
Hopefully not for Tottenham, though.
Not at the moment, anyway.
Maybe the Gunners.
Yeah, definitely not. And then the other one is Monte's Adventures to the Stars. That was the one I wrote first about Monte, because always him going to the stars, him going to heaven, him being up there. So that's the first one I wrote, and that will probably be the third one I think that will come out. That one's special, that one, because that was written immediately. That's about him having a dream and leaving this planet and going somewhere better.
Yeah. Also, you've you've reached out to others. There's a lot of people that you've attracted due to your story and sharing your story. So how many people have you kind of like helped and met with now that have kind of gone through a similar situation?
I met with a few people, and it's been interesting. Like I say, that there's no manual in life to deal with this, and how people deal with it is very different to maybe how I've dealt with it and things like that. But I've met other dads who have had similar situations, who have perhaps taken out that other route that we spoke about, being a bit, they've gone into a dark place and it's difficult for them to get out. They say stuff to me like, I go to work and people will be normal to me, they'll talk to me like normal, and I say, but look at it from the other angle. Like, if that was your colleague at work who'd been through what you'd been through, how would you talk to them? Like, you don't know what to say. I wouldn't know what to say to you.
It's difficult. It's so difficult. I mean, it's so true, isn't it? It literally is like, what do you say in that situation?
What do you say? I've had my sister, everyone knows us from when we're back at home, and I've got two sisters, a brother, she's got two nieces, and she'd go to the school gates, and after everything happened, people sort of wouldn't talk to her. Not because they didn't want to talk to her, but because they didn't know what to say. I can't blame anyone for that, because I'd be the same. I wouldn't know if you told me your story and I worked with you, and all I could say is, I'm really sorry. I couldn't talk to you because I wouldn't know what to say. I wouldn't know if I was saying the wrong thing. And for me, I've come to realise that people who were best friends with us before, some of them have disappeared. People who I haven't spoken to for 20 years, they're on the scene, ringing me up, checking in, saying, how is everything? It's crazy to see how this is sort of like the tables have turned on people that have been with you growing up and things like that.
And I mean, in terms of that aspect of helping others, is it something that you're looking to kind of grow?
100%.
It's something which, I mean, what do they call it? They call it toxic masculinity, where obviously it's like, especially our sort of age people, when we were younger, it was almost like our dads would teach us, you're a man, be a man, don't cry, don't show emotion. If something hurts, crack on. Whereas now, obviously, as times change, so a lot of men obviously go through this now. They're all sort of our age and find it hard to open up and talk about these things. All people are different, right? You've became creative from it. Some people will be suicidal from it,
That was a worry. That was a worry at one point. I thought, what if I do, what if my brain does go in a different direction? I had to channel everything just about my wife and my daughter and my family. If I'm not strong for them, then who have they got to turn to? And that was always the thing in my head. If I break, and I did break, don't get me wrong, I'd get in my car, I'd put some mad Linkin Park music on, I would turn it up as loud as I could, and I would drive around singing, crying, and just dealing with it that way. I couldn't break, not because I didn't want to break in front of them. I wasn't scared, I wasn't embarrassed. There's nothing to be embarrassed about this situation. I wasn't worried one bit about that, but I felt for them, and I thought if I buckle, and don't get me wrong, now I sit there and have a cry. I come back the other day, I dropped my brother off from the airport, cursed up in the shower room, and I just sit there, I just broke. I just cried. I was driving home, a song came on, reminded me of him, and that was it. Push.
Yeah.
It wrecked me, but I just had to take something from this that could help others, and now my time is committed. If anybody needed anything, to talk to me, advice, my phone would be there. Do you know what I mean? You could reach out and say, look, this has happened. I've seen other people help others, and that's all I want to do. I want to help other people, and with the charity which we'll talk about, I just want to help people not suffer like we did, and like I've seen other people suffer mentally.
Yeah, because it's there's it's like one of those tragic things, like you say. It's like you wouldn't even wish it on people that you despise and are your worst enemy. But that leads us naturally onto the charity then. So tell us a bit more about the charity and what you've been doing with the charity.
So with regards to charity, we met this amazing lady, and the charity is called the Myotubular Trust. They're based in London. We had a really good Skype call with them, because as soon as this happened, we're like, right, we've got money that we was going to use for his first car, things like that. And I was like, let's help people. Let's do what we can now to help people. The charity itself, there was a case a few years back where they found some advances with one of the treatments, and they tried it out on 8 children. Out of those 8 children, I think 3 or 4 started taking to it, muscles started moving, but 2 of them died. And I thought that if they're that close, there's got to be something that we can do. Yeah. And since that day, we left for England on the 1st of July.
Okay.
We had a golf tournament in England, near where I'm from, mid-Sussex. We only had, 6 weeks to arrange it. My brother helped massively. We had 74 people play on that day. We were turning people away. We probably had over 100 people wanting to play. Just from the story, people who know us, people from back home wanting to play, and it went ballistic. We set up a page with Virgin in the UK. I said, if I get $6,000, I'll be happy. That'll do something. It just went up and up and up. The golf day raised about 10 grand. We had a thing out here with another golf day, and I think as of now we're on about 20,400, which we've raised in 3 months.
And that's going to be given to...
so that's going to be used to... They've actually just applied for their grant of £1.6 million. I've got a phone call with them on Saturday just to talk about the next steps. They've got the scientists on board, but out of that 1.6 million, 300,000 of that is money which we've raised. People like you guys have raised, who've helped contribute towards this, which will then put them in a better position to actually secure that funding. And if they get that funding, there is every possibility they're going to help someone.
Yeah.
If they just help, I'll die the happiest man. Do you know what I mean? Just knowing that something a little thing that I've done.
Yeah,
a little thing that I enjoy doing, playing golf, like can raise money, can help people. And
you can do something and help someone at the same time. But also as well, I think that really also, Monte's legacy. Do you know what I mean? Like some unfortunate circumstances. Imagine if they were to, with the funding and the charity. Yeah. Imagine if they were able to find a cure.
Exactly, yeah.
Like Monte would be like, although he lived a small part of his life, he'd be a living legend because of his sacrifice. There's people in the world that don't have to suffer,
that won't have the life sentence that he did. And there was a guy in the UK who I used to watch a lot, because sort of run up, his daughter was very ill, Ashley Kane. His daughter very sadly passed away, and then after she did, he set up a foundation for her to raise money, raise awareness. And I look at him and I admire him, and I thought, if he can do something like this, obviously I'm not in his platform of social, but if I can just get something rolling where I can get the interest and get the name out there. For me, it's just about the awareness, raising awareness, putting something out there to help people, whoever I can, however I can.
Yeah. And did you ever reach out to Ashley? And
I haven't, no. I say, somebody who's got 1.3 million followers, if I send a message, I'll probably just go into some
requests.
But, if he's out there, Ashley, and you want to, I'm back in England next month, I'd love to, meet up with you and, see what ideas, to talk to someone like that as well, someone who's been through something similar and on that level.
A part of having a charity here in the UAE, are you registered here now?
So the charity, we don't do any charity work in Dubai. The British Embassy, who were amazing through this whole process, on the phone to me every day after we got the diagnosis. They were on the phone to me, do we need to get you an evacuation flight out of here, etc. Like they were on my phone daily, just checking in on me, physically, mentally, making sure that everything's okay with me and my wife. So I've just applied for the license through them. I think it will take a little while. We just had everything translated to Arabic for the charity to hopefully take that next step in going forward and being able to do it out here legally and the right way. Everything in the UK will continue as normal, but I'm very hopeful, touch wood, that, you know, with the people I've got there, they can definitely point me in the right direction.
Yeah, fingers crossed. So if anyone's looking to do raise any money for an event and wanna do it for a charity, but they don't know which one, then obviously you can reach out to us. I'll put all the details for Dean, and you can reach out to him. So, I mean, obviously, like, true inspiration, and I think just to share that story is just, phenomenal. You touched my heart because, I mean, I don't cry, but wow, there was there's a couple of wet eyes then. So, I thank you for obviously sharing that with us and the audience. But from a family perspective now, what's next? Like,
We're ready for, you know, Kirsty always said she was like a mother with empty arms, and I knew she was, and I knew she wanted a baby so badly. We had the perfect life, really. We had the baby girl, we had the baby boy on the way, like, perfect. We've got a nice house, we got it was everything we want of it. If it was taken away from us, and at the time, you've got to let your body recover. You've mentally got to recover. We're at a stage of our lives where we're both in really good places. Mentally, I might not look it, but physically, I'm a lot better than I was. I've dropped a lot of weight. You know, we watch what we eat. We do exercise, and these little steps will get us now to going forward in bringing another baby into the world, which we will do. Nothing will ever replace Monte. Nothing will. There's pictures of him all around our house. He's everywhere you go. But there will, you know, we will have another child, and we are going to have that, you know, that dream and that perfect. I mean, I've got a perfect family, don't get me wrong, but without the complications that we've had.
If you have another boy, do you reckon you would call him Monte?
I don't know. I think it would be difficult.
Yeah.
I think it would be difficult. We've got a place for him now. He's here with us, like, and I just think that if we have another, there'll be another name. I think Monty's going to be retired, and Monty's going to stay with Monte forever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think should. He will. And how are you feeling about Christmas and stuff? Obviously, it's such a monumental time for family, right? And
it is. I'm nervous. Don't get me wrong. Like, the first time I went back to England, I was nervous because we had to relive everything that we had out here, meeting our family for the first time after everything. But it's going to be teary. I've got Tallulah, though, who I know is going to bring me so much joy. Seeing her face, seeing her nieces and nephews, my mum, my dad, my brothers, sisters, nans, everyone at Christmas. Like I said, as long as you've got your family, you've got love.
Yeah. They're
going to support me, and I'll be there to support them. So I'm excited. Excited is the word I want to use.
Yeah, amazing. So as we kind of wrap up on the podcast, I usually like to ask a few questions, and, you know, as I mentioned to you off camera, I actually didn't prepare any notes for this because I knew that the conversation would just flow and flow and flow and flow. But I suppose my question that pops into my mind, really sticks in my mind, if you could change anything, obviously, I mean, in terms of what happened, like, in terms of how you dealt with it and how the process was, would you have done anything differently?
I wouldn't have done a thing. The outcome would have been inevitable, and the fact that I got the time with him that I did, that's irreplaceable. Like, there's nothing, you know, if there was a test that we could have done early on in the pregnancy, but this is such a rare disease that it's not something that we'll get.
Because it's so rare.
One in 50,000.
Yeah, I was reading that as well. It's like 1 in 50,000. Yeah,
it's 1 in 50,000, and it's nothing that can be. So it can only be given to boys.
Yeah,
which is why when he was born, I was like, we've got a beautiful daughter. Like, how can there be something wrong with my son? We've got a beautiful daughter, There's nothing I would change. There is. It's made us look at life different. It's made us take a step back.
Yeah.
It's made us stronger. It's made us better people. And all I can do is from the worst situation, in my opinion, given to any human, we've taken something from us to help him live on, but to potentially help other people as well.
Yeah. And obviously people are all around the world and not necessarily here, but if anyone's listening to this and they're obviously going through the same thing, what type of advice would you give them?
Talking is the key. I talk to a camera. That helps. You're the first person I've ever spoken to about this. I sometimes hold it a bit in with my wife, just because of what we spoke about. I don't like to, not so much now. Now I'll just bawl my eyes out if I need to, because it is what it is. But talking is, people say this, it helps to talk, and it really does. It really does. If you bottle that up inside, that's going to explode. That's going to hurt you, and it's going to hurt people around you.
Yeah.
If anybody ever felt they needed to, send me a message or say, Dean, this is happening. I'm not saying I'm a psychiatrist. I'm not saying I'm a psychologist or, whichever that path is, but I've got life experience.
Yeah.
And I could probably help you. People said to me, actually, touching on that, would you go and speak to a psychiatrist? Would you go and speak to someone like that? My answer was, yes, they're professional, but they haven't experienced what I've experienced.
Yeah.
And I would struggle to talk to somebody who hadn't been through what I've been through, if that makes sense. They could just sit there and you could talk to them. They're probably the smartest people I've ever met, but they haven't had the experience that I've had. And that's what I find different about meeting these people and speaking to these people that I speak to, is that we've had this firsthand. Not many people will have, and touch wood. I know nobody, hopefully, who's going to go through this. Like, touch wood, I won't, my friends or family, they won't experience, but people in the world will deal with this. And if they needed any advice, I'm there.
Yeah.
I can talk to them.
100%. And I think, going back to that point just there, just touching base on that, is sometimes, with talking, it's not necessarily about trying to find a solution. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just about talking, right? And just
getting it off your chest.
Getting it off your chest, because it's like, when you think about it, at the end of the day, it's emotions. Everything that we put into our body has to come out. Mm-hmm. So it should be the same for emotions and pain and feelings and stuff like that. And sometimes it's not about, I need a solution. I don't need a solution. It's just, I just want to talk to someone. Yeah. So, I mean, Dean, honestly, it's been amazing chatting to you. From all my podcasts I've done, I have some special podcasts and they've all been special in their own rights, but this has been, for me, probably the most special for me, because you've let me into a space which no one's been.
You're the first person.
And, and the fact that you've been so selfless to share this story in the hope that you'll help other people is just a true credit to the sort of person that you are. And, you and your family should hold your heads high.
Thank you.
And, I wish you all the best. And I can't wait for you to call me up and be like, Danny, we're expecting again. Yeah. And obviously going to the book launch. And I'm looking forward to reading Harper, some of the stories that you wrote for all the kids and stuff. So all I can say is you're an incredible human being, mate. And keep doing what you're doing. I'm so glad that we were able to actually be connected. And just keep doing what you're doing.
I really appreciate it. Seriously. And thank you for letting me get the message out there.
Yeah.
So even if, a couple of people take note and listen and need anything, then thank you.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time and say, if I can just help one person, I'm happy.
And that's exactly how I look at it. Exactly how I look at it now.
Yeah. So if you are listening to this and you would like to chat to us, please do reach out. We're here, and we do this because we kind of want to help others. And if you want to talk to us, even if it's not even relevant to the subject, you're just experiencing some pain in your life, come and chat to us. Because, we're all humans at the end of the day, and, we all bleed the same blood, and it's so important to open up, and a part of the podcast is just to help others. So I really hope you enjoyed the podcast. I know it was a bit of a different kind of subject, however, super inspiring. One of the most inspiring stories that I've had the pleasure of being able to share. So if you did love that story just as much as we do and felt inspired and touched, please head over to Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review. Even if it's a 4-star review, I don't mind. Just a review. Let us know what you think, and reach out to us on Instagram as well. It's Daniel Lee's Success Podcast, or you can reach out to Dean Munro 11 and tell us what you thought. We love hearing the feedback, and sometimes when you put this onto the World Wide Web, it's very difficult to understand who's actually listening and has it actually touched someone. So we really encourage you to reach out and let us know. And just thank you for all the new listeners and all the existing listeners. And, we're here to inspire, and I hope, I'm sure there's a lot of people that would have cried a lot at some of that story, but I just hope that, it's touched you and look at life in a slightly different way. So again, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your time, and we'll see you next week for another amazing episode for the Recipe Success Podcast.